Alright everyone, we have to talk briefly here about the legacy media response to Huckabee Sanders' sort of statements regarding Trump's tweets, as well as his own tweeting itself. We all know that Trump has a tendency to turn around and bite people in the ass for criticizing him. It's not exactly a secret at this point. He did it throughout the primaries. I think the only thing that's taking anybody aback is that he continued to do it when he got elected, because they were so confused at how he got elected in the first place, partially because he does stuff like this. He knows it, I know it, a lot of his fans know it, but there are some people who just don't get it. They just don't get that just because someone's calm and keeps up appearances doesn't necessarily mean that they're not an asshole. I'm sure if you could get like secret recordings of any politician under the sun, you'd find, I think in a lot of cases in private they talk a lot more like Trump and a lot less like Obama in public. Probably extends to Obama himself. You look at some of the presidents we've had in the past, someone like Andrew Jackson, very foul-mouthed, throws chairs around, gets into duels, stuff like that. You've got presidents saying, oh, I'd like to kill this SOB, and, you know, the press is full of idiots, and, you know, just all sorts of stuff under the sun. Some of the people that are, like, lionized. It's like JFK. Trump comes out and comments on the nice smile of an Irish reporter. Everyone goes crazy calling him womanizer, he likes to grope women and stuff like that. Meanwhile, some of these groups, they hold JFK up on a pedestal, even though he was himself a serial womanizer. He had his own bedroom in the White House just so he could boff models all day. And that's what got him off. And they didn't have a problem with this. They look back and say, oh, it was a different time, or something like that. It's crazy. Huckabee Sanders comes out, deputy spokesperson for the White House. Essentially, Sean Spicer is nowhere to be found. Nobody knows what the hell he's doing at this point. She's actually doing his work for him. I think that's probably for the better. At least she's able to answer questions more rationally. Doesn't look like she's quite as nervous. Even on her first day, first time she goes up before the press, knowing there are all these so-called scandals floating around. She's sitting there stony faced. Sean Spicer, months after he takes on the role, he's still chewing the Nicorette gum. She comments on the tweets and says basically, well, Trump is getting attacked by people unfairly. They're dedicating an inordinate proportion of all of their political news coverage to just the Trump-Russia crap, that now people are coming out from groups in the media itself, not even alt-media. Not like, oh, Stefan Molyneux says that it's fake or something. No, we're talking about people who work for CNN. Van Jones, by the way, is being defended right now by Salon. They're running the story. Oh, well, he says that it was taken out of context. There's no context to take it out of. He said what he said. Yeah, the CNN Russia bullshit is a nothing burger. That's all he said. These people have dedicated virtually all political coverage for months now to a story that many within the legacy media itself even say is probably not real. That's called not reporting the news, that's called reporting a bunch of opinion and spin. Including, by the way, those that are defending Trump. They dedicate a lot of coverage to it as well, partially because they have no choice. If MSNBC and CNN and NBC and all these groups talk about nothing else for months at a time, what else is there going to be to talk about among their competitors? Because their competitors aren't saying anything else. It's not like you can have a decent, sustained conversation on what form the economy should or should not take, what we should or should not do regarding North Korea, what we should or should not do regarding climate change or any of these other things. How the hell are you even supposed to have that conversation? The corporate media, like the TV press, holds itself up on a pedestal as the sole and only arbiter of what is or is not true news within the entire country. And if that is in fact the case, it's obviously not, but if their claim were true, they would have absconded their duties as a press in not asking any other questions that have something to do with issues other than Vladimir Putin, Russian espionage, or what hookers Trump has or has not hired. And that's the truth of the story. They're destroying themselves. They talk about nothing else. What happens to these people when the novelty wears off of thinking that the President of the United States is being controlled by the Russians? Because I'm hearing relatively little about it now from the actual government itself. The intelligence agencies have largely gone silent. CNN retracts yet another story saying, oh, those 17 intel agencies we mentioned, it was actually only 4. And nobody even wants to talk about their own malfeasance when it comes to reporting the truth. These are the groups. Supposedly, this is what they've cast themselves for as years. Straight reporting. We limit the bias. Yes, there are opinions among reporters and pundits, but we try to limit it. We try to present a relatively balanced view to people so that they can be informed on specifically what has happened, not necessarily why it happens, not necessarily whether it's good or not good that it did happen, simply telling them straight reporting, telling them the facts of the day. Where we're telling them it's going to be cloudy. We don't then go into half an hour of coverage about what it means for you or some other fluff story, something like that. That's what they've branded themselves as. But then they realize that being unbiased, being more or less fair, and doing straight reporting no longer got them ratings, which is exactly what CNN is alluding to. Now O'Keefe is coming out saying, oh yeah, we got some more CNN videos. It goes right to the top with Zucker. Can you imagine the fallout if Zucker himself referred in any certain terms to the Russia story as being bullshit? Can you imagine how fast shit's gonna hit the fan? That'll give Huckabee Sanders something to fucking talk about. It'll certainly cause a tweet storm for Trump. He'll trot that out for weeks and absolutely decimate CNN. That's what will happen. Meanwhile, he'll chuckle and pretend that he's actually on the same side as Fox, who are too cowardly to even call him out on anything he does at this point because they know, oh shit, he's going to start attacking us and we're already on the ropes. So they can't do anything. NBC's got problems. They get Megyn Kelly on there to ramble about Alex Jones and it completely flops. MSNBC has its own problems. Now CNN is faltering. This is what happens when the legacy media stops being... Essentially, it would have almost been better. They would have lasted longer if they had just continued the boring straight reporting, because there were actually people who would rather see that than maybe some of the clickbait sensationalism you get from some parts of the alt media. They might have actually preserved themselves longer. Now look at what happens, and here may be the next act. We can't predict this certainly, and I'm not certainly predicting it to any degree of certainty either. What could end up happening is that as these media groups get attacked over and over by the alt media, they start attacking one another, because they'll all be hoping to knock one another down, absorb their audience, and be the last person standing to be sort of the hegemonic baron of cable news or something along those lines. You could see that happen. You could see a schism within the legacy media, simply because there will be a declining amount of money and fans and attention for them actually to gobble up. They'll have no other choice, or they'll have to downsize. That would be funny. All of a sudden, Fox News is using cardboard boxes for their studio setup. All of a sudden, CNN replaces the Frappuccino machine with with just a water vendor or something like that. Oh, just the standard cubicle fixtures and stuff like that. Now that would be funny. But watching the corporate media pretend to be concerned about free speech is nonsensical, because they've been arguing against free speech for a long time. They're right on board with anything that denigrates the ability of the average person to talk. They think that their journalism degrees and their kickbacks from political parties make them special. And there are unfortunately some people who think it makes them less biased. No, it makes them more biased. They're the ones reliant upon some corporation or bank or some multinational parent company to sign their checks. They're the ones relying on that. Some person with a webcam, they may be totally uncompromised. You know, you get crowdfunding, you make a decent living. Well, you don't have any corporation controlling you. Good, you can report on all the evils that those corporations do, on what the banks are up to, what the other groups within the media are up to. You can question policy and do it openly and fairly, whether or not you have some personal bias associated with it or not. But watching them run around like chickens with their heads cut off, pretending to actually care about delivering the right news to the American people. You haven't been doing that in quite some time. You deliberately stopped doing that around the time of 9/11 and delved into pure sensationalism when you realized what ratings you were getting, covering people jumping out of the towers or something like that. I think that was really the death knell of legacy media. They grow for a while and then they start destroying themselves because they have to keep up the constant fear. the constant war propaganda, the constant silliness that we've really seen from Fox and MSNBC and CNN and all these other groups for now years and years at a time. There hasn't been fair reporting from the so-called media. It's not even the full media. The media or the press, whatever you want to term it, that's anyone who's distributing information non-verbally. It's not just people who have a multi-million-dollar studio. That setup used to be great because it was necessary to disseminate information to people across large areas. You couldn't do that with some local radio show. You couldn't do that necessarily with your local newspaper. You needed some very large corporate firm to be able to disseminate news. You don't need that anymore. Now you've got the internet. You don't need that. It's worldwide. Anybody can be viewed anywhere else. I was looking last night at my analytics, and I figured out there are only 5 nations in this world where I've never received a YouTube view. And there are people that have channels 100 times the size of mine. In some cases even larger than that. We're talking, and 2 of those are like total police states like Turkmenistan and North Korea. Like nobody's ever gotten a YouTube view from them. So that leaves a handful of places that have basically zero human development. I'm getting views from like Greenland and Cuba and Bhutan and Papua New Guinea and places like that. I can't even imagine how much attention some of the larger YouTubers get in these places. We don't need the old style of corporate media. It's inefficient. It costs hundreds of millions of dollars to create and fund such a setup. When you've got pundits that make 7- or 8-figure salaries, it costs a lot of money to do that. It costs a lot to pay for the Rachel Maddows and the Bill O'Reillys and the Joe Scarboroughs of the cable media. It just does. Even radio, you're talking about multi-million-dollar incomes from some of these people. How much do you think Don Imus makes in a year? It's more than you're likely to ever make. It's more than I'm likely to ever make. That's just fine. There are people who they just want to disseminate their opinions, other analytical information, or primary reporting, and they do it on the internet. They whip out their iPhone. There's a fire. They whip out their iPhone. They interview a couple people. They get some shots of the fire. They do a write-up on a blog and slap something on YouTube. There you go. That's news. That's an element of the media, an element of the rights of the press. That's how it's done today. You've got citizen journalism. You got millions of people across the world with smartphones at any given time. You have to be out in the literal middle of nowhere to find an area that's like a dead zone where people aren't doing citizen journalism. The literal middle. You have to be out in the Sahara Desert or the middle of the Mojave or something like that, or Siberia. Even there you're going to find that one dude who's got a smartphone and takes recordings of his reindeer, or of his Amanita mushroom haul, or something like that. Even there, you're going to find it. You go out to the hinterland somewhere, you go out to some migrant community in the mountains of Nepal, you're going to find somebody with a smartphone who puts stuff on YouTube occasionally. I've watched videos from people like that. It's great. And that's just YouTube. It's not even like Facebook, Twitter, all these other things. It's all interconnected. We don't really need a press corps anymore, per se. We should just do this all online. I mean, it's inefficient to even have them, like, physically show up, too. That's unnecessary. Just hook it in through YouTube. Have people submit questions via Twitter or something like that. Wouldn't that be nice? Actual citizens getting their questions answered by the chief executive of the United States spokesperson. Wouldn't that be great? Instead of just having a bunch of talking heads who make 7-figure salaries doing it. I think it'd be more fair. So when they ramble about Donald Trump, he's being mean again, he insulted Mika. You've been insulting him for months. What do you expect? He's just going to sit there and do nothing? He's just going to sit there and shut up and talk about something totally different? That's not in Trump's MO. You know that Trump's not going to do that. You know that's not in his character. You know that you're going to get insulted, so why are you so worried about it? You know that he might kick you out of the press corps. Boo-hoo! You've been in there forever. When did you start asking tough, hard-hitting questions about Iraq? Oh, it wasn't until we already invaded. When did you start questioning the government's domestic surveillance policies? It wasn't until quite a while after Snowden in a lot of cases. So don't give me the crocodile tears about people need fair reporting. Otherwise, how will they hear the news? They can go on YouTube and hear the news. Then go on Facebook and see the news. There are a million alt media sites. Some of these groups are technically businesses. They do have advertisers and stuff. They're still way better than CNN and Fox, MSNBC, all these other rags. You've devolved into tabloids at this point. Most of what you say, if it has any meaning at all, if it's even remotely political, it's just gossip. If I want that, I'll read the Inquirer. It's going to be more entertaining than anything you can deliver. Or I'll go on YouTube. I'll look up videos on Nibiru or something. Because at least those people that are way, way whacked out there, at least they're more entertaining than watching Joe Scarborough or something like that. Rachel Maddow. Tucker Carlson. Ooh, what a thrill. Really gets me pumping to watch Fox News. So exciting. No, it's not. It's boring. I can't even interact with it. Screw it. I don't want to watch your shows. Maybe a decade ago it was fun. You know, before some of the modern conveniences of social media. I'd rather connect with other people, hear their opinions about what you're saying. If I'm talking about your story, it's not the substance of the story, it's others' opinions of who's delivering it half the time. That's the truth of modern media. That's about all. Peace out.